Join us. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. All together now, Dead by Dawn, Dead by Dawn. Yes, we've got another great entry in the seemingly unstoppable Evil Dead franchise. We've had the original Evil Dead, a cause celeb, the infamy of it being the poster boy for the video nasty furore. Then you had Evil Dead 2, which sort of toned down the gore, changed the colour of the gore, but became even more outrageous. A big splat-tastic fun fest of frights and fear and fun. And then you got Army of Darkness, which dropped the horror completely and became a Ray Harryhausen homage. I love it, but why didn't you call it the Medieval Dead? Evil Dead 2, then Medieval Dead. Perfect. It was on a platter passed to you, and you couldn't get that right. Army of Darkness. No, I still love it, but it's a massive, radical sort of downshift in style and tone. It's more anarchic and it's more family friendly, which you don't really want from an Evil Dead movie. And then Fede Alvarez came along in 2013 and made the really bleak, nihilistic Evil Dead. A sort of reboot, semi-remake reboot. And I remember not liking that too much when it first came out. But over the years, it has, like fungus, it has grown upon me. And I've learned to not only accept it and appreciate it, but to really damn well quite like it a lot. And then you got Ash versus Evil Dead. And yeah, that was it. Bruce Campbell, the chin comes back, and it took us back to the anarchic, outrageous OTT roots of especially Evil Dead 2. Where it's camp, excessive, gaudy gore, but it's fun at the same time. And it does explore the mythos even more. But with Bruce Campbell, you get belly laughs, you get guffaws, and it's great. I loved it. And now we get another Evil Dead movie. And it's called Evil Dead Rise. And it's written and directed by Lee Cronin. But with the backing of Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert and Ivan Reitman and everybody involved with the initial slew. Well, all of the other Evil Dead outings. They're behind all of this. And I think Robert Tapert produces this movie as well. But there's no Bruce Campbell in this movie. So don't go thinking, oh, it could be a little cameo of Bruce Campbell in there, maybe somewhere. No. But if there is, I did not spot it. So, I love The Evil Dead. You may have noticed. And I couldn't wait to watch this. And I saw the first showing of it yesterday. And I raced back to the pub afterwards to do an initial reaction video. I thought, I'll do it in the pub. And I made some little notes in the cinema. Little notes, look at that. I will refer to those. It's got all the cast names on it. And I got to the pub, and of course, I ended up gabbing and drinking and gabbing and drinking. So it didn't happen. So then I left the pub and I came back home. Oh, I've got to take the dog out now, the husky. So me and the husky went out into the graveyard, out the back there. And I thought, I know what, I'll do the reaction video in the graveyard amongst the tombstones. That'll be fun, won't it? That'll be very fitting and very appropriate. Well, the dog had other ideas, so that never happened either. And then me and the dog went back to the pub, and well, you can imagine what happened next. So I thought, screw it, it's too late now to do a quick reaction, non-spoiler video. Because, you know, the barn door's open now, and the Deadites have bolted. They're everywhere now, so what's the point? So I'll do a much more in-depth review with loads and loads of spoilers. So, anyway, I loved it, folks. I loved it. I've got some minor gripes about it, but I actually had quite a good time with this. And the way it started off, I thought, oh no, I don't like anybody, which is the exact thing I had with Evil Dead 2013. I thought, don't like anyone. The tone it's bleak. Everyone is just, you know, ratty, sarcastic bastards. And I thought, I just want you all to die. But of course, that is what you want. Whether you like them or you don't, everyone has to die and then become possessed and wreak havoc on those beleaguered few survivors who you are rooting for. And that's what I found with this movie. I began to root for the people that I didn't initially like. And it took place all within an hour and 33 minutes. Like Renfield, it's a blissfully short movie. Just an hour and a half of blood, chaos and carnage. Who could ask for more? So, what's it all about then? Okay, well, in a big swing shift, we are not in a cabin in the woods. The film does start off with a kind of prologue, which is a cabin in the woods and a great big lake as well. And for those people that say, oh, you can tell it's been filmed in New Zealand, well, you can, but not because of the settings or the locations. Because it opens up with one of those great big sweeping camera jobs, like the Speeding Demon, which Sam Raimi, with a camera, strapped to him or on two wooden rods, is running through the woods and all that, almost colliding with trees. That devilish kinetic energy and momentum, that opens this movie. Only it's not a demon. It is a drone. And I thought, oh, well, that's a nice little sort of, hey, yeah, it's a drone. And it goes across this big lake. Now, this setting with a huge, very, very sort of, almost like a pyramid sort of alpine lodge of a cabin is all meant to be the Tennessee woods, I presume. And it looks like it. So there's reviewers out there who've gone like, oh, you can tell it's New Zealand. No, look fine. And the apartment block, the condemned and dilapidated apartment block, which is all only seen in dark, stormy sort of settings and lighting from the outside, that could be anywhere. It's set in LA, but it's filmed in New Zealand. But you don't know that, apart from the neighbours, who are certainly not of Hispanic heritage. They're more of a Maori heritage. But that's about the only thing that kind of gives it away. Anyway, so we start off with a bunch of friends who have, some of them reluctantly, gone to sort of a weekend vacation at this alpine lodge. And the drone's doing its thing. But you've got there's a girl who's sort of ill on the bed, and the friend goes in to see, what's up with you? What's up now? And then just hears a grunt because she's lying there with her back to her. And so the friend sits down and she's reading Wuthering Heights. And the first lines in the film are like, what the fuck? And I thought, oh, here we go. It's going to be just a complete F-bomb fest. Because they think that's how everyone speaks. Well, it is. It's how I speak a lot of the time. But in movies, I hate it when that is just the way everyone speaks. What the fuck? Oh, the fuck? Oh, the fuck? Well, it doesn't go on like that. But it does start off. And I thought, oh, you're joking me. We're going down that road already. But she's reading Wuthering Heights. And then the girl in the bed, whose face you haven't seen, begins to start making strange noises. And then she's, you all right there? Yeah. And it goes back to reading. And then suddenly the girl in the bed begins to recite what the written word is. And the girl's like, and looks up, and suddenly she's sitting upright, but with her back to her. And she's reading the whole paragraph out. And it's a nice parallel to the original movie with the card playing, with the sort of automatic writing taking place. And Cheryl can tell what the cards are for real, but she can't even see him. She's even looking out the window, and then she turns around with those white dead-eye eyes. It's a neat parallel to that, because this girl is clearly possessed. So a little skirmish takes place, and the girl who is reading Wuthering Heights gets her scalp ripped off, and then she will stagger down the pier, the little jetty out into the lake, where this other bloke is there, this dork with the drone is there, and she's there like, and half her scalp's been torn away. She's a meat puppet. It's a line you hear a couple of times. And he's like, what happened? And then you'll see the other girl, the possessed girl, drops the scalp on the jetty and, using the drone, decapitates this lad. Decapitation by drone. And then she will levitate above the lake, and the title, Evil Dead Rise, comes really out the screens here. And I thought, yeah, okay. I'm on board now. This is great. Already, the sound design and the music, you're hearing the score now by Stephen McKeon. And It's wonderful. There's no fun to it. It's dark, it's brutal, it's nasty, as is the entire rest of the movie. So then we cut to our main protagonists, and we have, what's her name? Hold on a second. We have Ellie, who's now a single mum of 3 kids. Young Cassie, little girl, Bridget, known as Bridge, I hate that name, and Danny. And the husband, we learn, has left only recently, and they're living in this dilapidated, condemned apartment block, fairly high up as well. And they've only got like a couple of weeks left to start finding somewhere new, but that's their home. And Ellie's sister Beth turns up. Now they're kind of estranged, you know. Ellie calls her a groupie for a band. She's like, I'm not a groupie. I'm a guitar technician. And Beth, played by Lily Sullivan, who's actually really good, has that sort of sarky, sullen snarl of a voice. She speaks really low and growly and quiet, and it's always got a bit of a sarcastic twang to it. You know, well, yeah, you know me, sis, I've fucked up again. You know, I'm always in trouble. And yeah, she has fucked up because she's pregnant. There you are. I told you to be spoilers. She's pregnant. And but she's estranged from her sister, so they're trying to repatriate. And she's been, I think she's been, was she in Tokyo or Bangkok or somewhere in the Orient with this band? And but she's come back home to see her sister, and she didn't know that her sister's fella had left. Oh, didn't you get the voice message I left? And oh no, but you know, I don't really pick up on these things. So, but she loves, you know, her niece and her what's the male version of a niece? Nephew. That's it. There you go. A timely juncture to pick up the whiskey to keep my brain cells flowing. Cheers, y'all. So it's an awkward sort of reunion, but you meet the kids as well. You've got Cassie's the little girl, played by Nell Fisher. She's brilliant. A cute little moppet who also uses scissors to cut the heads off dolls, and she makes a protective sort of staff with the doll's head, which is to ward off the ghost that lives in the apartment complex. Because as we learn, it used to be a bank, and this guy, who for whatever reason, I think he committed suicide, I can't quite remember now, he wanders the halls and that, like, and if he hears someone with loose change in the pocket, he comes for them. Don't worry, that doesn't play any other part in the movie, but she does have this staff with a doll's head on it, which will be used as well. A lot of foreshadowing of tools, implements, and items and things that will be used later on, you know, in an act of sheer blood-curdling bloodletting. And so you've got her, you've got Danny, played by, where is he? Morgan Davis. And he's slightly older. He's like be about 16, 17. Well, it's got to be 17. He's driving a car. And in his room, this is a condemned apartment block, but they're like the apartments you see in the film Seven. They're fucking huge. The rooms are like bloody banquet halls, and there's loads of them. You know, it's a huge fucking place. But anyway, he's like an aspiring DJ. So in his room, he's got his headphones on, and he's and all this stuff, and it's pumping music. So you're already going like, oh, he's a fucking pain in the ass, this guy. And but you've also got, I think, the older sister, Bridget, played by Gabriella Eccles, and in a horrible bit of clumsy writing. Luckily, all this stuff, these are gripes of mine, like the swearing at the start and the dialogue in this introductory phase is naff beyond belief. People calling each other, like in the opening bit, there's a cousin, like, hey cuz, and these two, hey sis. No one says that shit. Nobody. And if you do, you deserve a fucking slap. No way. You don't, hey cuz, hey sis, oh, fuck off, you know. Cheers, brothers, sisters. But you got this horrible bit of dialogue where Bridget, or Bridge, that sounds awful. She goes, Mum, is my top ready? Oh, what top is that? You know I need that for the Labour Day protest tomorrow. Oh, it just slam that bit of, that bit of exposition down. The Labour Day protest tomorrow. I need it. So her mother's got this sort of sewing drill thing, like an embroidery thing. Foreshadowing again, as I say. And scissors. Foreshadowing, of course. But anyway. So I'm sitting there and thinking, oh God, I don't like any of these people. This has massively got so much in common with Fede Alvarez's 2013 take. But no, I reminded myself, you learn to love that movie, so just give this one a chance. And I did. Things kick off. So, the mother. Oh, we could be in trouble. If he's reciting the incantation. Oh, he is. Oh, God. Well, we're in trouble now. There are people that said that could be Bruce Campbell in a cameo. That voice. It is in the movie. But I don't think so. Cheers up. Right, Danny, take my car and go and get pizzas. So the three kids, Danny, Bridge and Cassie, take the mother's car and drive off to get pizzas. On the way back, suddenly, there's an earthquake. Oh, you know it. Ground shaking everywhere, things are tumbling off walls, everything's rumbling, and they've come into the underground car park. With the pizzas, they come back, and they're in that sealed in, underground car park. But the pizzas drop out of their hands. Everyone get down, we'll be all right. And then a fissure opens up in the floor of the car park. Danny goes in. And what do you find down there? Other than a great big, huge Jesus on the cross effigy, which comes out in a big shock, jolt, jump scare. He finds a vault, gets into the vault, and he finds all religious artifacts and a book. What book might that be? Oh, yes. One of three, apparently, we learn. Yes, it's a Necronomicon. It's a Book of the Dead. It's also, what did he call it in this? Naturom de Monto. Loosely translated, Book of the Dead. And we learn it's one of three. But he's the DJ, he's playing vinyl. He finds some phonograph records in there as well. Brings them back. They return to the apartment. The pizza's a bit messed up. And the two sisters have sort of like, well, your husband's left me now, so I'm alone. We've been condemned. Have you looked for anywhere else? Well, not really, but what we're going to do. And you got this sort of family angsty moment. But pizzas are here. In the meantime, our boy starts looking through the book. And the book is great. This Necronomicon is a different version of what we've seen before in all the previous movies. It's a different style. And it's wrapped up with like this sort of lattice work of, they're either teeth or they're claws. Sumerian demon teeth or claws. And he's trying to prise it open. But of course, in trying to prise it open, it's him and Bridge who are looking at it, his sister Bridget. And one of them sort of cuts him and the blood drips on the book. Oh no! And it's a book that has been inked in human blood and bound in human flesh. And we know it's a naughty book, don't we? So he starts flicking through the pages because the book, these things are open. So they're looking for the book. And it's all these graphic imageries. Now, we all love the Book of the Dead. I've got a version of it behind me there. Now, we all love the Book of the Dead and those. In all the previous movies, they're different styles. The first initial movies, they're kind of surreal imagery of torture and demons and things, and spells and incantations. And then in the 2013, it was a bit of a more serious look at that. There's a lot more writing, a lot more prophecy taking place in it. This book's different again. It's got the prophecies in there, just with imagery and maybe some incantations. But the actual illustrations are far more realistic, far more, historically sort of relevant. That's that sort of style. To be honest, I didn't like the way it was illustrated, but you could quite clearly see, oh, that's going to happen, oh, that's going to happen, and that's going to happen. And yes, they all happen. And but Bridge doesn't like this, and she's like, oh, no, take it back, we're not having that. But no, I'll take it back later. Yeah, don't worry, I'll take it back later. He loves it, doesn't he? Of course he does. Because there's nudie bits in it as well. There's nudie bits. And orgies taking place and stuff like that. And but he's got those phonograph records. Oh, I'll put one of them on. And of course he starts tinkering around with it. And it produces a voice, doesn't it? Well, you just heard the voice. But you heard, what you do hear is a priest saying, you know, oh, they worked for the church. They were priests who found this Book of the Dead. And they're trying to translate it and decipher it all. But the church said, no, it's not a good idea. Don't do it. Put it down. Go back to your scriptures. Like a good Christian. But no, they keep at it. Several of these, I think there's 3 of them. And you hear another couple of voices too. And then, obviously, they do the incantation. So, shit happens. Now, you've met some of the neighbours. And you've got Ellie, the mother. Again, played by Alyssa Sutherland, who is tremendous in this movie. She's a tour de force. She will end up in the elevator. Now, you're not meant to use elevators when there's been an earthquake, but the stairs have gone as well. The stairs have collapsed. So you're setting up an isolated stronghold, like the cabin in the woods, and you can't get away because the bridges are down and, you know, the things in the woods. So you're stuck there. You're going to be stuck in this apartment complex and basically stuck on that floor, and mainly in that apartment itself. But I've already said it's like a fucking battleground. It's huge, so there's plenty to explore in there. And so Ellie is in the elevator. And oops-a-daisy, in a sort of a redressing, a reworking of the oft image of a woman being attacked by trees and vines. In the first film, it's tree rape. Admittedly, as Sam Raimi also admits, it's in bad taste. And if you could go back, you'd take that scene out altogether, or at least the actual rape elements of it. But this possession thing, even in 2013, you got that as well, with Mia getting attacked in the woods by the vines and dragged into this sort of hollowed out tree root system. So Ellie becomes possessed while that incantation is taking place. And the circuitry and the wiring of the elevator ensnares her, hauls her up, and it's cutting through her flesh. Her body's contorting. It's a genuinely horrific scene. And she will be possessed by the Deadites. And from that point onwards, the eyes in these movies, the modern movies, do not just become like little white sort of ping pong balls. No, they're fantastic eyes. Genuine, they're alive, but they're Deadites. But my God, they look ghastly. And she will return to the apartment, not looking her best, throw up all over the floor, upset and embarrass the kids and her sister, and then seemingly fucking die. So they call the neighbours in. Well, what are we going to do? We can't even get out. Well, we've got a shotgun and we've got a chainsaw. Oh, the chainsaw's down in my van. Oh no. But we'll try and get through these are the neighbours. You've met a couple of kids and you've met Mr. Fonda, as in Peter Fonda, Jane Fonda. And I thought there was some kind of like in-joke there. You see his van, his truck in the underground car park, Fonda's on it. And I'm sure there's some kind of gag there, but I can't for the life of me think what it is. If anyone knows what it is or sussed it, please comment below and do let me know. Cheers in advance for the tip-off. They're going to try and get through another apartment to try to get to the fire escape or whatever they're going to try and do. To get downstairs, to get stuff, to get them. They think that Ellie's died. She's had a fit and she's died. But Ellie isn't entirely dead. Her eyes will open and she will go ballistic. And she will cause absolute fucking chaos. She will be the lead possessed, the pure Deadite chieftain warrioress. And she will wreak absolute violent hell upon everybody on that floor of the apartment. especially her own family. So they put it into her, because she seems to wake up and like, oh my God, she's actually alive. Oh, but she's burning up. Let's put her in the bath. And they put her in the bath, and that doesn't work. She suddenly flies up out the bath, and she's on the ceiling, and she's scuttling around all over the place, like, and then she's threatening the family. And this is where the film really comes into its own. We move up a gear. The threat to children is often badly mishandled in movies. And, you know, it's meant to be shocking, and you often know that the child involved, if it's a small child, like you have in this with Nell Fisher playing Cassie, who'd be, 5 or 6 years old, something like that anyway. When they're filming the excessive violence and the swearing and the threats, she's not really going to be, it's filmed in such a way, she's not there when you're seeing all the violence taking place. They're carefully looked after. But in this film, Lee Cronin and his cinematographer, who is Dave Garbett, and the editing really make you concerned for this girl. She will seemingly witness the most barbaric acts of violence and be in such jeopardy that, yeah, it's a bit of a white knuckler, to be honest. And unless you've got a heart of stone. Now, I'm not going to go through all the chaos that takes place. I will illustrate various antics that take place. But you will have, oh God, lots of this taunting of the family. She will attack them. They'll throw her out into the corridor outside, and they'll barricade the door. They're all trapped in there. They can't get out, and the power's down as well. Oh, you know, that old chestnut. But the mother's outside, and she'll like in the first Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, she'll suddenly be okay, or seemingly okay. She never looks back to normal again, but her voice will change, and she'll try to, you know, implore the younger one, Cassie in particular, to let her back in. Mummy, they're looking for the little spy hole in the door. Mummy, you don't look so well. And she's there with this jaundiced yellow skin and these Evil Dead eyes and this sort of Joker rictus grin. And Alison Sutherland really plays it so well. Having such good fun doing it, and the movements, the jerkiness, and this sinister smile, trying to be beguiling and yet being utterly terrifying at the same time, and threatening and ominous. And like, Mummy, you don't look so well. Don't worry, it's nothing that a big old hug from you won't cure. And she has this big rictus grin on her face, and her head's doing all this sort of stuff. Through the spy hole, our beleaguered family, the siblings and the auntie, will witness the murder of all the other neighbours that you've got to meet. An eyeball will be bitten out and spat into someone else's mouth, who then gag and choke on it. Throats are slit and ripped out. There's lots of stuff going on. There's a shotgun blast, because they've got a shotgun there. The staples of a shotgun and a chainsaw will definitely be in this movie. And they witness all this massacre in the hallway. But the mother will, like, you know, kind of, look, I'm going to get back in there. We've learnt there's a cat on the loose in the air ducts overhead, which I think was Mr. Fonda's cat, and he's got up in the ventilation shaft again, like, or whatever. And so you know that's going to play a part. And in the meantime, Beth is now learning. Beth, I'm not a groupie, I'm a guitar technician. You know, she's coming into her own. She's suddenly becoming a bit more proactive, and because the shit's hit the fan. This is not a good scenario. But you kids, stick with me. You can't trust your mummy anymore, but you can trust me. But you never just get one person possessed. Other people are going to get possessed as well. So you get Bridge gets possessed. Bridge, played by, again, Gabriella Eccles. Now, as good an actress as she is, as the film progresses and she gets possessed, because in the big scrap with the mum, she's got a wound on her face, and her wound later on will become, in a great sort of callback to the original movie, when the pencil in the ankle and the spiderweb effect when the possession takes hold of the ankle and the leg, and then the rest of the body of Linda, Ash's girlfriend. You get this, she's looking in the mirror and like, and suddenly the spiderweb effect goes across her face, and her skin changes colour, and next we see her, she's sitting on her haunches on the kitchen worktop surfaces, and they're like, Bridge, are you alright? And it's Beth who's like the auntie who's there, and Beth turns around and she's munching a glass, oh god, and gargling with it, so her mouth is all ripped up and she's clearly possessed now. And I forget the lines, but there's some good, she comes out with some good horrible nasty dialogue to her auntie, and a battle will ensue there. And what happens then? She ends up getting stabbed and beaten, I think. And does she get set on fire at that point? She does get set on fire at some point in that kitchen, and she's a wailing, flaming dervish, and then seemingly dies. And the brother Danny, the one who's, it's his fault, for God's sake, it's his fault. He's done it. He's unleashed it all, and he does know he's done it as well. He wraps her up in like some kind of like blankets and sheets and ties her to the bed, knowing that she might come back again, which of course she will. So lots and lots of carnage. You've got scissors in the mouth, I said the eyeball coming out. You've got that embroidery drill thing, like almost like a tattooist sort of drill, ink thing. It's almost put into an eye. But you get all of this and hit with pots and pans. But forget the comedy aspect that was in Evil Dead 2 with Ash smashing plates over his own head and putting a knife through his own, and then chainsawing his possessed hand off. Like, who's laughing now? Oh, that hand got the spiderweb effect as well. Like, and it's all like that. So there's a lot of callbacks to the original movies, which I do like. They're not forced. They don't feel laboured. The Labour Day protest tomorrow. Don't you remember? You know. But Beth sort of realises, hang on, so what? You played a phonograph record and this is what unleashed it on. You've got that book. Well, then maybe they're going through the book and like, what? Okay, well, maybe there's 3 records. I'll play another one because maybe one of those will actually give the way to destroy these things. But the power's out. Everything's wrecked. This is where being a guitar technician comes in, because she gets like a little soldering iron and starts working on the circuitry and gets the record player, the turntables at work again. And she gets her earphones on and she's sitting there listening to all what happened to those priests, because one by one they all became possessed. And the guy narrating it all finally says, like, I know they're going to come for me. So, it's all what like we've heard on the tape, the cassette recording in the first movie and the second movie. And what we know of all of this sort of lore and mythology, the Kandarian demons and the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon, it's all on these phonographs. So she's there with the headphones on. In the meantime, of course, you know about the cat that's up in the ventilating shaft, and the mother who's still outside, still looking for the spy hole and all that, who has almost coerced Cassie to open the door. And she opens it just enough for a fucking hand to come through and grab Cassie by the neck. And she's like holding her up. Think Halloween 2018, where Michael Myers gets round the door and is lifting Laurie Strode up. Very similar to that. But he managed to fight her off and get her out again. But then she realizes, hang on. An air vent. Where did they go? So we actually hear her in the air vent. And they're looking up like that. Oh my God, something's up there. As she's scuttling about like a big spider in the air shaft. And you've got Beth listening to these things, and suddenly behind her, there's Ellie. So she never actually hears the full weight of turning these things back, because then another battle ensues. In the meantime, things coming up behind people. You've had Bridge has come back from the dead again, and it's behind Danny, and she will knife Danny to bits. She impales his hand, his arm, and then and he's covered in blood, he's drenched in blood. Is that where she gets set on fire? That might be where she gets set on fire. I don't know, I can't remember now. But again, now, so Bridge is gone. You've got Cassie and you've got Beth, because Danny's now been killed. So they've got to get out, they've got to bug out. So these two manage to get out into the corridor. But of course, one by one, all the people who've been slain, they come back to life. cue a chorus of Dead by Dawn, Dead by Dawn. So R2, I've got to leg it into the elevator because that's the only way out of it now, and that's not even working properly. But, oh, there's that shotgun. There's Mummy, or the sister, Sis, coming down. Oh, this sort of giddy sort of walk. Boom! Gets her arm blown off. Boom! Gets her leg blown off. It is RoboCop all over again. And she's on the deck, but all these other ones are coming up now. The lift doors managed to shut. You get in there and hitting all the buttons. Let's get out of here. They're going to go down. But in the meantime, all the other ones are now... You've seen an image in the book of a woman who's been ripped apart and they're all putting their hands in. And that's what they're doing. All these other Deadites now are joining with Mummy to become an abomination. We learned about the abomination in the 2013 movie, and they're going to do it here as well, but it's a much different incarnation, and it's one of those disappointing things as well. To be perfectly honest with you, I was a bit surprised that they did this, but I'll come on to that. In the meantime, we get one of the... This is a great sequence. You've got Beth and you've got Cassie in this lift, hitting the buttons, and then the buttons begin to fill up with blood. Blood begins to seep into the elevator and begins to rise. Like the Evil Dead. Rise. The blood will rise. And in all the original movies, there's fountains of gore. In this movie, there is... I wrote this down. Somewhere I wrote this down. 1,717 gallons of blood, says Lee Cronin. Gallons of fake blood. That's a hell of a lot of blood. And in this sequence, you'll see where most of it went in, because this begins to rise up, and like they're trying to climb up and all this. They're trying to get into the vents above, smash the vents open, and all sparks are going off. But it's looking at Cassie. Nell Fisher is extremely good in this sequence. Her terror on her face as she's looking at this, and you really, really feel for it. God, get that girl out of there. Please get that girl out. And this is a film with 1,000,001 jump scares and tension and brutality and high level of intensity. I was never scared once. I didn't jump once. But I'm not saying that's a failing of the film. They're there, and other people in the audience with me did jump. But I'm so immune and inured to this that, I know what's coming, and I don't really have that shock value isn't really there for me. But I genuinely felt on edge in this sequence. The sort of the Kubrickian throwback to The Shining, the elevator of blood and the blood tsunami, which you're going to get in this, because this elevator will actually crash down into the air in the underground car park, which serves as being the cellar, the fruit cellar from the cabin in the woods. The underground car park serves that purpose, and it comes crashing down. The doors open, and they come flying out, just completely drenched in gore. And like almost drowned in this stuff. But it's been a really nerve-wracking little set piece. Now, this is the thing. They get into a car, they've got the keys, they get into someone's car. Must be the sister's car, the possessed mum, must be their car. And but they can't get out. The tyre drives into, the wheel drives into the fissure. Remember the earthquake, all that stuff? Yeah, it's stuck there. But something else is now arrived with them. And it is now this new abomination, which is the conjoining of all of the Deadites into Ellie's body. So this big misshapen spider type thing. Yeah, we're going there. Comes lumbering after them. Now, the thing about this that I don't like is it smacks of, it's the big monster, it's the big boss fight, it's the big beast itself. Think back to the prequel of The Thing, which ruined everything by having replaced almost all its practical effects with CG. And at the end of it, you have this tentacled and lots of limbs, spidery type apparition with the big bad guy's face horribly CGI'd on. Now, it's a lumbering mess, and it didn't work, and it ruined the film for me. Now in this, it's much better accomplished, because most of it's prosthetic and animatronic, so it does look really good. But why would you do it? When you're a deadite, you're suddenly super agile. Your body can move in all different ways. Your bones don't matter. Your physicality doesn't matter. You can move at the speed of a fucking jaguar or a cheetah. And you can climb ceilings and walls and do all sorts. Why would you conjoin into this slow, lumbering, clumsy thing, which you can easily just walk away from, you know? But of course, being a film of tension and suspense, as it comes near, they can't get the car moving, so they get out of the car, they hide behind one of these columns, but it's still coming for them. And you got this hyper tense final battle. Now, you've got a wood chipper. Oh yes. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Hey, and I've been drinking. You've got a wood chipper, and that's in the back of this Fonda's, this neighbour. I'm sure there's a gag with Fonda. There's got to be some kind of gag there. And I have thought long and hard about this, and I really can't gather. I can't work out what it is. But there's a wood chipper there, and there's a chainsaw, of course, and there's a shotgun. Now, so you get the poor Cassie will get dragged towards this into this van, and the beast has got a chainsaw and it's gonna go into it. But Beth manages to use the shotgun on this, and the thing turns around. Cassie gets away, gets underneath the van, and then it comes for her, and it's got Beth, and it's dragging Beth towards the wood chipper. Think a smaller scale version of what ground up Michael Myers in Halloween Ends. Yeah, one of them, a wood chipper in this case. But Cassie managed, and she's getting dragged towards it, and the mother is taunting. By the way, the mother, Ellie, didn't realise that her sister was pregnant, because I don't think she actually got to tell her that. And but in a sequence where she's gonna like devour it, she's on top of Beth earlier on, and it's a very unsettling scene actually, as she's sniffing the belly, the womb of her sister, and you hear the baby's heartbeat, and then I forget the lines, but the possessed sister comes out, the possessed mother comes out with these horrible, really apocryphal things about the unborn bastard child and all that, like, and what it's going to do to it and all this. Oh God! Which is where the scissors, I think the scissors come into that bit. Cassie throws the scissors down to her auntie, who then lashes them into the gob of her own sister. Think The Dead Zone, David Cronenberg's adaptation of The Dead Zone, with the world's most bizarre suicide by putting a pair of big, bloody, massive scissors into a drawer, pull the drawer open, fix them in with the drawer, and then because the guy's been found out to be the killer, this is The Dead Zone now, and they're coming for him. Christopher Walken's all coming for him and all that, and like he goes and thrusts his own head onto these scissors with the blades parted. What a fucking weird way of doing it. That is the most bizarre suicide I've ever seen, enacted. But anyway, so yeah, scissor stuff aside. So we're back, this is the end now, and the end game. And so Cassie manages to turn the wood chipper off. Chainsaw comes into play, and big battle with the abomination. And Beth puts the chainsaw, very similar to, you had the chainsaw in Evil Dead 2, giving it loads, where he's got his girlfriend's head in the vice, he's soaring through that. And you're going to get it in this, and you got it in Evil Dead 2013 at the end, which was done better, to be honest. This is fully in your face. You've got the chainsaw going to the top of this bitch's head, like that, grinding through it, and but she's still like spouting, obscenities, and the head will come off, and the head will, as the rest of the abomination's been sucked into the wood chipper. Tons of offal coming out the other side of it, like everywhere, fountains of yet more gore and giblets, and but the head's there, and it's like, I'll swallow your soul, and the sister just goes, fucking boots it into the wood chipper, so that the head gets diced as well, and it's seemingly all over, because what happens then? Right, okay, well, we can't get the fucking car out of here, but we've got the car park, the grill entrance doorway is up there. You've had a scene of suspense where Beth manages to get out, but Cassie gets dragged back as this door comes down. So Beth has had to kick this other vent out to get in there. to save Cassie. This is all during this big frenetic finale, the big boss fight. But they're about to leave. They are utterly drenched in gore, and like Beth stops and goes back and picks up the chainsaw and the two of them walk out into, well, a very uncertain and misplaced LA, because it's New Zealand. But I love the image of the auntie and the little girl, the niece, and they're walking out holding a chainsaw, and you think, well, shit, where are you gonna go? She's now completely suspecting that there could be evil everywhere, so I'm taking this with me. You know, we're gonna use this. And you walk out onto the night streets of LA, downtown LA, with a chainsaw in your hand. Yeah, it's probably the only place in the world where you could do that and probably go some distance without anyone actually stopping you. But it's not quite over yet. Our main heroes have now left the building, literally left the building and the film. But remember those people at the start, in the cabin in the woods and the big lake and all that? Well, that's the day after, because after that prologue, it then says the day before. So all these events that I've just described are all of what's happened the day before that stuff with the drone and the automatic telepathic reading of Wuthering Heights. But the girl herself, the one who becomes possessed in that opening sequence, she's in the apartment too. She's on a different floor. And she comes up, having not heard all the screaming and shouting and shotgun blasts and chainsawing and, just all-round chaos that has erupted in the wake of an earthquake. You think you'd be on your toes after a fucking earthquake as well. You'd be listening for any kind of rumble or noise. But she's managed to, blissfully be unaware of it. Oh, we're still going on that weekend vacation. And her mate, the one who gets scalped at the start, is going, I don't really want to go. I'm not really in the mood for this. Oh, you're coming. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm picking you up. She goes down to the car park. Yes, the underground car park. Of course, all those events have now happened. And it's awash with gore. And she sees all this. And, oh my God, what? And she sees Fonda's wood chipping van and all this. And then you finally get the real demonic camera work for a real demon going through from all different angles at this girl. So the evil hasn't been destroyed. The evil is still there because the book, they never closed the incantation speech mantra ritual. So, opening the vortex to send it all back. Ash did that. Didn't quite work out for him either, to be honest. You can't stop these bastards. They're everywhere. You read from the book. Oh, that's it. All these little loopholes, they don't really matter. So once the dead's out, the dead are out. They rise. Things get bloody. So this girl gets possessed. But it's a bit of a weird one, this, because most people who get possessed, they're kind of nasty very quickly. But clearly this girl after becoming possessed, will get in the car and drive off, pick up her mates, and then drive out to this cabin in the woods, which can't be just round the corner, can it now? And must have maintained some semblance of, sort of respectability and normality. They do say at the start of it, she's been acting pretty weird. Oh, she's ill on the bed. I don't know what she's been doing, but, better go and see her, which is what kicks off the drone attacks and the scalpings and the levitation above the lake. But the film ends there. It's almost like a bit of Pulp Fiction, where a sequence that you see, something you see at the start of this is actually after everything that you're going to watch throughout the rest of the movie. So you've been tipped off as to how this is going to go. So the Evil Dead just carry on. And now they're in the woods as well now. Folks, that was a slapdash run through of the movie. I had an absolute ball with this. It is brutal, it is dark, it is nihilistic. It is massively in cahoots with the 2013 reboot by Fede Alvarez. Characters are pretty much unlikable. It's a modern take on characters. It tries to have a familial sort of setting with the angst between siblings and stuff like that. And I didn't care too much for any of that. I thought, it's generic. This is typical modern new horror fare. But as it kicked off, as it got out the first act, and things began to happen, I began to become invested in these characters, and I thought, because you're seeing younger people in severe jeopardy, and the violence is, again, off the scale. Now, here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. This is a blood-drenched, gore-soaked, carnage-rife classic of mayhem and mutilation. It is. But it still doesn't beat the 2013 one for its extreme brutality and bloodletting. That one still stands above this. And even the original Evil Dead is unparalleled in its depiction of bodily dismemberment, mutilation and violence. This has everything you want from an Evil Dead movie, apart from Bruce Campbell. But if you have Bruce Campbell in, now let's be painfully honest here. If you're going to have Bruce Campbell, and I love Bruce Campbell, you are changing the tone of the movie. And it will have to be, with him there, it's going to have to go back to the campy goofiness, the Three Stooges sort of splat stick of the first two Evil Dead movies, well, first three Evil Dead movies and the TV show. Of course. Now that's great, but that's its own thing. If you're going to tell a hard horror movie for a modern audience, then reluctantly, as I was with the 2013 one, and begrudgingly, you've got to accept it's going to have to work like this. It's going to have to be serious, really, really po-faced and nasty as fuck, with a very sinister, dark, unrelenting atmosphere of grim looking jeopardy and death. And that's what you've got with this. And it works. I began to care a hell of a lot for Beth, and especially for Cassie. That elevator sequence, oh Jesus, I really, really, yeah, that got me, that scene. And then anything after that, apart from the shambling monstrosity, which I thought, why did you have to go down that road? If you just kept a bunch of these deadites running around and having to take them, and maybe they gleefully laughing and dragging, Cassie to the wood chipper or towards a chainsaw, dismemberment, that would have worked. But this shambling, stupid thing with all limbs coming all over the place, but with Allison's face, Ellie's face, then that kind of let it all down a little bit. It became too, it's the final monster, the big reveal, the Blair monster from The Thing, but nowhere near as effective. The film looks great. The cinematography is dark and somber. Despite all the claret that's there, it's not a colourful film. It's very dimly lit and grimy and grungy, and it works in the film's favour. The practical effects are outstanding. It's a very meagre budget. I'm not sure how much the budget was, but this is a low budget movie, and you can tell it's all set in one location, really, But the practical effects are exemplary. There is CG, of course there's CG, everything uses CG now, but the CG is used very sparingly and very wisely, and none of it, even looking at the gore, having watched Renfield only the week before, and loved it, but Renfield was let down by the relentlessly naff CG, and the CG gore eruptions, which are just, they're rubbish, they're genuinely rubbish, very amateur. In this, he's using, what was it again? 1,717 gallons of real fake gore. And it shows. There's a real solidity to it. There's a viscous quality to these elements. The prosthetics are outstanding. The impalings, the stabbings, the throat slittings, the eyeball devourings. It's all great. The chompings of bodies in the wood chipper, the chainsaw going through. It's great. The burning of certain characters. Shotgun amputations, all looks very impressive, but it doesn't linger. I know it sounds bizarre because there's such intensity here of impalings and the knives being moved within. Poor Danny gets it through his bicep, his upper arm, and she twists it round as well. And I think, oh God, no. But I think there's still more in the 2013. Which makes you wince and go, oh God, no, oh, that's too much over this one. And yet it still delivers on all counts of gore and violence and the things you want and expect from an Evil Dead movie. It's got all that in spades, and I had a great time with it. There is no humour, There's none whatsoever. None. There's loads of callbacks. Loads of that. You listen to Stephen McKeon's score for it, which I love. Now, this score, I've talked all over it, but it's quite intense and it's powerful, it's dark, it's unrelenting, and it's full of shivery suspense as well. Now, it harks back a couple of times to Joseph DeLuca's score for the first two Evil Dead movies. I can't really pinpoint them because there's some very long cues in this, but little elements do creep in. But it mainly harks back to Roque Banos's score for the Fede Alvarez 2013 Evil Dead. And in its stark, brutal intensity, and it's just unrelentingly grimness. But I love that kind of score, and it really, really works. It enhances the movie, heightens every moment of suspense and tension, and really delivers the goods in the shock tactics. But, and I might do a video on this score specifically because I do enjoy it that much, there is an element that really throws back to James Horner's score for Aliens. There is a few bits which I thought, that's Aliens there. It isn't, but it really does sound very similar, and it's used to great shivery effect. The big, long, drawn-out, suspenseful build-up, going towards a door, going into a darkened area, descending into a fissure, to this 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 religioso sort of crypt beneath the apartment complex, which was part of the old bank that was there, which was great. And these sort of tense, suspense-filled build-ups are really work. So, Evil Dead Rise, the title, okay. Well, they literally do in the opening. She does rise. People do levitate. They climb up ceilings and things. There are lots of moments of things, bad characters appearing behind good characters and then taking their time, because you know they're there, but your boy or girl doesn't know they're there until the last moment, when the pounce takes place. And it works well on those elements. Film isn't perfect. The dialogue mostly is pretty naff. Once you get into just the action stuff, dialogue doesn't really matter. It doesn't play a huge part. It's just, response, and reaction and emotive, let's do this now, and people calling each other's names in terror and fear and panic. But the acting is great. I say initially I didn't like the characters at all. And the ones who go for the vacation in the woods, yeah, they're fucking despicable. None of them are likable in the least. You don't really, but it's the bookend of the movie, and to that end, it probably serves its purpose pretty well. I like she's reading Wuthering Heights, and I like the way she's reciting the passage, and she's like, she's not even looking at the book. She's 10 feet away with her back to the girl reading the book. It worked well, and it was a nice hark back as well to the card reading session. And the Oldsmobile is not there. Sam Raimi's car, the Oldsmobile Delta, is not in the movie at all. I looked, it's not there. But the chainsaw, which is used in this movie, is the same yellow colour as the Oldsmobile. And that apparently is the little Easter egg there. Don't know why they didn't do it. Now, I also believe that, I know that I couldn't see Bruce Campbell in there, and I don't think he's in there. But Robert Tappert, the producer, apparently is in here somewhere. And I didn't spot him. Because again, especially in the original movie, you can see Robert Tappert and is it Sam Raimi, who are they look like hunters or fishermen in the woods as they're driving through the woods. They're not meant to be seen there. It wasn't meant to be in the shot, but they're there. So there's a little cameo that they did, albeit omittingly. I do believe he's actually in here somewhere, but I don't know. The other characters, the other people who live in on that floor, the apartment, are very obviously, two of them certainly are Maoris, and that does take you out of it. If you know, kind of this is meant to be LA. This is the only bit that I thought you know, okay, that's, you're showing your genuine filming location here. But even so, it doesn't matter. And they don't last long. Shocks are plenty, gore are plenty, great score, great direction. Lee Cronin does well, building suspense and tension and putting that little Cassie in jeopardy. Oh my God. And her brother, Danny, he's only young as well. He's 17, and he gets butchered. You got Bridge, who's, I think, older than him, and she gets massively butchered, stabbed and beaten and set on fire, and she's been chewing glass. Yeah, there's a lot to go on. The wood chipper, yeah, that was nice. That was well done. So yeah, folks, Evil Dead Rise. I said this would be spoiler filled. It is. Give me the beginning, the middle, and the end. I haven't told you all the chaos that takes place. There's a lot more stuff that actually happens, and some of these scenes of carnage are protracted and extended, and you know, but that's what you want. You know, you want these set pieces that just go on with mayhem and mutilation. Oh, you get them. You get them. I've noticed in a lot of forums, everyone's ranking the movies now. I'm not a big one for ranking movies either. And I don't like scoring them out of 10. I think I did it reluctantly for Renfield. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10, I think. Yeah, I think I did. This, I'm going to give this, if you put a chainsaw, shotgun, a chomping Necronomicon, or put me head near a wood chipper, I'll give it a strong 7 out of 10 because I had a great time with it. I didn't expect to. The first 5-10 minutes, I thought, I don't like anybody in this. Here we go again. But over the course of a brief movie, I learned to warm to these characters and then root for them and be really genuinely, you know, on their side and care about them. Well, that says a lot. That says a lot. That's the actors, that's the direction, and worked. So I'm going to give it a strong 7 out of 10. Ranking it, no, I shouldn't even go down this road because this is so difficult. As I said, I've done reviews of Evil Dead movies, and I did a commentary track, a watch along party for Evil Dead 2 only recently. And I said on that every time I want to watch an Evil Dead movie, and they're all there, and the TV show is there as well, and I think, I'll watch the original again. Oh, no, I'll watch the goofiness of Army of Darkness. Doesn't matter, my hand possessed goes towards Evil Dead 2 every time. So I've not seen the surrounding episodes for quite a while, and nowhere near as much as I've seen Evil Dead 2, which is still the one I go to. Even like when I'm just possessed, that's the one for me. Because it has everything, it's perfect, you know. I will say this as well about these movies, and you're going to think this is quite perverse, and it probably is, and it works on probably a very nasty primal level. There is something about seeing people drenched in blood from head to toe, plastered in gore, and their hair is just stuck to them with blood, that is really, really interesting, and I don't know, in some cases, now this is where it's going to sound bad, is actually quite sexy. There, I said it. Jane Levy, or Levi, who played Mia in Evil Dead, the reboot, 2013, looked incredibly sexy, although she was a horrible wreck of a goth to begin with. But when she's bedecked in blood, it's just the eyeballs, you know, leering out, and it's all smeared. There's something sexy about that. I know this is, people are going, what? They're turning off now. No, hear me out. There is, and I bet you agree, on some primitive primal level as well, which is why they're doing it in these movies. We see Bruce Campbell totally drenched in all sorts of blood and everything. God, it's all there in all the other original movies. But when you see like the likes of Jane Levy covered in gore, there's something sexy about it. And again in this, when you see Beth, let's get her name again, Lily Sullivan, drenched in gore and the hair's plastered, she looks sexy, and it's hard to figure it out, to be honest. But there's something. It's got to be a primal level, and probably a very disturbing one as well. But hey, I bet I'm not alone. They wouldn't do it if it didn't work as a visual sort of wow. That's like looking at Pinhead. There'd be a way of like looking at Pinhead from Hellraiser, Doug Bradley, with a bunch of nails banged into his skull, which would be like, oh, that's fucking gross, that. But it isn't, is it? It's actually very incredibly, wow. That's almost, it's beautiful. It's bizarre, and it should make my stomach turn, but it doesn't. I'm entranced by it, and that's the same with this. Now you see the little girl, oh poor little Nell Fisher, because of the lift, the elevator, and the rising tide of gore, she's covered in it. They make a point of wiping it from her face, so her face is always on show, but she's drenched in gore at the same time, but her face is on show. They've done that deliberately. Keep the little girl out of that. She's covered in gore, but you see her face. But Beth, you are drenched, you know? There's something there, and it works in these movies. It genuinely works. It's sort of emotive, and it's horrible, it's ghastly, but it's also inspiring, and it looks like you are at the end. You are covered in gore. Some of it is actually your own as well, because poor Beth gets of course, I forgot to mention, the bloody cheese grater. Everyone goes, I know what, the cheese grater. Actually, it's not that bad. In the trailer, the red band trailer, it like whoosh, drags it down her leg. Yeah, but she doesn't go up and down and up and down. You go back to the original Evil Dead, where Linda comes out the grave. Ash just buried his own girlfriend, and she comes out the grave and she goes down his leg, and she's just tearing bits. His corduroys have been ripped to shreds. His calf has been just laid bare to the bone, and he's going that's horrible. Now in this, when she grabs Beth's leg and the cheese grater comes out, she just goes whoosh like that, and just goes down. Yeah, that's bad. But she doesn't go up and down and up and down and up and down and totally grate the leg to bits. It's just once, and then she very quickly gets that bandage up and she's fine, you know. But back to this drenched in blood thing. Something there. Freud would probably have something to say about that. There'll be a lot of psychologists out there going, oh, Kilt-Man, please. Come here then, take a seat. And I'll be like, I will, but where's the whiskey? You know? Oh, here's the whiskey. So folks, there you go. That is Evil Dead Rise. I think I've covered everything I needed to cover there. This is what you do when you think you're going to review a movie. You make little notes. I didn't make them in the cinema while it was on. Fucking hell, you know. I made them on my phone, and then when I got to the pub, I said, I've got a pen and some paper, and I scribbled down all the notes that I made on my phone. That's what I did. Oh, I will say, the sound design on this movie is freakish. Freakish. I've not heard a wraparound overhead all the way around you nasty sound design as this movie since the original Evil Dead. The original Evil Dead had such a bizarrely devilish sound mix that many critics, especially in the UK, despised the film because it was so unpleasant to listen to. Droning, screaming, chainsaws, endless high-pitched and groans, and it was just a cacophony of noise. And it wasn't particularly well directed. It was just thrown at you. Well, this film, it's awesomely well directed around. You catch this in Dolby Atmos, fucking hell. You're gonna be in fucking hell, because it's an audio assault. It really is. It batters you. It pulverizes you. Now, for a film of this kind, that's what you need. It's not only pummeling you with the most hellish, barbaric visions, but it's also totally ensnaring you in this acoustic oral assault and battery, and it works. So screaming, little drills, chainsaws, shotguns, everything, and it's this fucking droning noise, and of course Stephen McKeon's score, it just pummeling, it pulverizes you into oblivion. So there you go, folks. A solid 7 out of 10. I probably made it sound like it should be even higher than that, but who fucking cares? Scores on the doors are fucking stupid. It's very arbitrary and pretty random. But I do recommend Evil Dead Rise. If you're a fan of the Evil Dead franchise, you're gonna love this. Because if you did like the 2013 take, this is that again, but with a different setting. And of course, now they've proved they can take it to different environments. The Evil Dead is one of those franchises where it can be redone again and again and again. They've proved you can go back in time, you could probably go forward in time. You could probably take it to Mars. Although John Carpenter pretty much did an Evil Dead movie on Mars with Ghosts of Mars, the otherwise awful Ghosts of Mars. Hate to say that about John Carpenter, but my God, his last movies stunk. But you could take the... If you've got a Necronomicon and you can get the incantations spoken aloud, it can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter. You know, you could be the deep sea. You know, you could be interstellar space on the Nostromo. You're going to bring out these Sumatran Kandarian demons. It'll happen wherever you are. Arguably, Event Horizon did that as well, to a degree. Possessions and demonology, mutilations. See, it's already happened. So the Evil Dead, you will get another Evil Dead movie, and there's no reason why you couldn't get. I don't think I could get tired of the Evil Dead franchise. Just take it to different settings. This took it to the city, but it really wasn't the city. It was an isolated apartment in an apartment block, which is already cut off. So it might as well have been, you know, the cabin in the woods. It's an isolated setting, so the battleground is there. But you could take this anywhere. The temptation for another movie will be to bring it into the wider world. You took a tentative step with this one. So have it in a city, have it in like a sports stadium with lots of people and helicopters. You could do that, of course. You would probably lose essential elements of the Evil Dead recipe. Probably, but it depends how it's done. But I'm on board for where this franchise goes next. Sam Raimi didn't have much to do with this at all. He's just given it his backing and all that. And Bruce Campbell's the same. But Robert Tappert has been on board for all of these things. So his ability and his commitment to it has ensured that even the serious ones, which have been a departure from the goofiness, has still maintained the integrity of the Evil Dead. I want to see more. I want to see this again. I definitely want to see this again. I know that some good friends of ours on the channel, notably Steve 007 Smith, the guy that, you know, got all these wonderful canvas artwork behind it, and the one for the Evil Dead over there. He saw it, I think, about an hour or so after me, but about 120 miles apart from me, and we were messaging each other, and he didn't like it. He didn't like Renfield either. He was going to walk out during Renfield, and but he took it through to the end, but he weren't happy with it, whereas I was to a degree, and he didn't like Evil Dead Rise. He didn't like. Oh dear. Well, I did, and there's been a few other people who've been on to me as well, like that, and they weren't as impressed as I was impressed. It's not perfect. It isn't, and it doesn't go anywhere near the original or Evil Dead 2. It just doesn't, because you've got the whole Bruce Campbell angle. So as I said before, if you bring Bruce in, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but you've had Ash versus Evil Dead. You've had that's took everything that we knew and loved about Bruce Campbell fighting Deadites to the nth degree. You know, you really can't go any further than that. You all want a little cameo just to hear him go groovy. That's all. Oh, you know, workshed. You know, you just want to hear that voice. I know you do, of course, but it doesn't really. It's got to have to fit. These films are darker. 2013 and this one are much darker, more brutal, more realistic in tone and atmosphere. And you might not like that as much. I don't. I prefer the Bruce Campbell stuff, but I do love these movies for what they are, and it still adheres to the lore and the mythos. This one adds another couple of Necronomicon books, of course, I know, but and that can't be a play on Army of Darkness, because when he gets there and he fucks up the lines, Klaatu, Barada, noodles, fucking laugh me head off that. And he's got the 3 books are there. But, you know, 2 of them are decoys. He's got to find the right book. 2 of them are not official Necronomicons. You know, he's got to get the right book. You know what I mean? 3. No one's saying there are 3 books. But you could still get a Bruce Campbell further edition, I suppose. But I'm happy where this has gone, and I enjoy it for what it is. A absolute balls to the wall, balls nailed to the wall, blood-soaked gore fest, horror odyssey. So the Husky has just arrived, which means it's time for her to go out. So folks, I have been always Shabby Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, this ever deadite awakening in between time, please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic, keep drinking whiskey, keep taking the pills, and book your seat with a psychologist if you like people drenched in gore as well. Or is it just me? Worrying? No? Folks. Laters. Her eyes. Look at her eyes. For God's sake, what happened to her eyes? Have you seen the rest of it? The eyes are the least of your concerns. Look at the rest of it. Oh.